everybody, and welcome back to our weekly Beastars video, and today we're talking about episode 6, Blurred Vision. Before we get into the absolutely wild episode that was Blurred Vision, I do want to give a big shout out to everybody who shared last week's video over on Twitter, at BerserkerVivo, at DarkFirePlayer4, at Heartfelt Hero, at Mirth Mouser, at Nacho Gashardo, at Stilgard Tekken, at The Grand Nil, at Debrininator, at Eric the Wolfie, at Silverback088, at Remy Tosh, and at Foxo. Wow, thank you all so much for sharing last week's video. It is super appreciated, and if you too would like to have your name shouted out in next week's Beastars video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet, and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout your name out in next week's video. Now then, with that said, I have a lot of emotions going into this week's video, or episode, whatever. You can tell, I'm already kind of flustered. Honestly, a lot of folks were telling me, like, listen, man, like, JoJo, seriously, like, next week, it's gonna be kind of intense, you better be ready. And I was like, no, I'm ready. You guys doubt me, I'm ready, I'm fine. I wasn't ready. Just flat out was not. I think with many things with Beastars, there's a couple shows this season where I just don't think I'm gonna be ready for every episode, and Beastars is absolutely one of them. Every episode I just feel like hits with like the power of 1,000 Charlie Sheen suns. It just really hits with a lot of impact. And episode 6 is no joke. This episode features not only the first appearance of Juno, the quote-unquote younger sister, and then it also features the big city, the black market, and the black market's therapist, and it also features a new potential best boy in Alba, and the return of worst boy, Bill, but I will get to Bill later. And listen, if you're a fan of Bill, because I know that there are a few people who watch these videos who do like Bill, you are entitled to your opinion, and I am very much entitled to mine as well. And my opinion is that Bill can eat it. Maybe I take that back. Let's go ahead and go a little bit old school with today's video and go from the beginning of the episode towards the end of the episode, just for some kind of structure in today's video. And so that would mean that we start with Juno. By the way, lovely name. But Juno is essentially LEGOSI'S new younger sister, but I'm only saying that in the sense that, like, that's how I'm going to be referring to her, but I'm definitely seeing that Juno's probably going to catch some feelings. And I mean, why wouldn't she? If you saw our husbando bracket, like, a lot of people put LEGOSI on that husbando tier, and as far as I'm concerned, he's a B tier husbando. Like he is a good, solid husbando, so I don't blame Juno for falling for our boy LEGOSI, for catching some feelings. That's totally fair. But the way that this episode opens, where we meet Juno, is that our boys are all kind of hanging out. It's Jack and LEGOSI, and I don't remember who else was there. But we see everybody sort of like, I think it was chess. I don't know what they were playing. They were playing something. But as they were playing, they were watching this news report on the TV about this, I believe it was an antelope, they said? I don't super remember what it was. It was some kind of herbivore, and unfortunately they were found in an alley, dead with a bite mark in their neck. So there is a carnivore running around out there who is killing herbivores, and it obviously startles the students enough where the other herbivores who are playing with Jack and LEGOSI feel sort of threatened almost just by hearing it, and I mean, like, it's like I understand why they leave, I get it, but come on, not our boys, they would never, like, no. And even the way, I don't remember who it was, I don't remember who else was there, but they're like, don't worry about it, man, and they're freaked out. It's not you, it's the situation. It's hectic right now. It's getting scary out there. And yeah, I mean, how could they possibly think the goodest boys on the planet would do anything remotely harmful? Because now that I think about it, LEGOSI'S been dealing out some scares and some pain when it needs to happen, but definitely not. Like, definitely wouldn't do that to his friends willingly and intentionally. You know what I mean? Like, LEGOSI, he's a good lad. He's trying to get a grip on his more carnivore instincts, and I think he's doing a good job. I mean, like, he does sort of cave every now and again, but he's doing a much better job than Bill. But anyway, Legoshi leaves, afterwards. He has class, or I think he had like something to do with the drama club. He had to go. And as he's leaving, he sees these kids picking on some girl, and the girl turns out to be Juno. And I'm fairly certain we've seen Juno before. At least she looks familiar. I don't know if I saw her maybe online or if I saw her in a preview or something like that. I've definitely seen that character before. Maybe she was in the room, the ecology room, where it's like the moon was hanging. Was she there? I feel like maybe she was there as well. But anyway, we meet Juno, and she is the sweetest, and I will protect this one till the day I am dust. I already like Juno. She's super sweet, and her whole point of like, I'm sick of this, like, and I was like, yeah, me too. I'm not even a carnivore. I mean, I'm an omnivore, but like, I'm a person. But even I feel for the carnivores in this show. Like, I feel for the carnivorous animals in this show, because it's like, why, like, first of all, why the bullying when she could eat you? Like, some of the herbivores blow my mind. Like, I don't know if it's even really, but then again, I'm pretty sure those weren't herbivores. Like, because they were picking on her because she was a wolf. And it's like, why are you going to pick on a wolf? They're one of the peak predators in the food chain. How are you going to pick on a wolf? It just blows my mind. And like, I just feel for her, because for her, she's coming from a place of like, listen, I know what like my species is. You don't have to remind me, and you don't gotta poke fun at me for it. Like, it's not my fault. I was just born like this. And I was like, yeah, like preach, my girl. Like she's good. I don't know. And especially like just the fact that like Legoshi steps up and is like, that's my sister. Is there a problem? And when we see her, I was like, that ain't your sister. Like right away, I'm like, that's not your sister. You two don't look anything alike at all. And even the other two animals are like, yeah, what the heck? You guys aren't related. And Legoshi's like, I take after my dad, and she takes after our mom. I'm telling the truth, ish. It's like, sure. And I don't know, it was just a sweet scene, and it did make me go like, Legoshi, you a good man. Like Legoshi ever climbing up that best boy bracket. Legoshi's like a top tier best boy, like absolute best boy. Probably one of my favorite protagonists of the year. Honestly, yeah, I feel comfortable saying that. Like, I feel comfortable saying that Legoshi's one of my favorite protagonists of the year, just because he's such a good boy. Like, he's just such a good, genuine dude. But it's not like it comes easy, and I think that's what makes him so good, in a sense. Like the fact that it doesn't come easy, that he does struggle to be a kind-hearted wolf. Like it doesn't come easy like it does for other like shonen protagonists, for example. Like people who just sort of stumble into the situation and feel like, oh, like they're like everything sunshine and rainbows. Legoshi's a quiet and reserved dude, but even that doesn't come easy. And Legoshi, he's like, while maybe not on the surface as deep as characters like Louis or Haru, he too is deep. You just have to kind of peel back the layers a little bit. Legoshi has layers. Legoshi is like an ogre. Ogres have layers, onions have layers, Legoshi has layers. But as much as I would like to finish the rest of this video by talking about how much I like Juno and I like Legoshi, we're gonna have to move on, because there's other stuff in this episode that I feel like we should probably talk about. One of which being the big city. We actually get to see the characters actually venture out of the school and actually take a look around the big city that I believe Cherryton is like on the outskirts of, or something or other. But basically, Legoshi hasn't been to the big city in a while, and it is very pretty. I actually really liked the layout of the city. Seeing that many of these like anthropomorphized animals walking around and hanging out and just sort of be in a community, I was genuinely sort of floored, because it just looks really fun. Like, it just looks like a fun city. And I especially loved the bit of world building where best boy, or not best boy, but a new potential best boy, Alba, points out like, oh man, look, the birds are flying. And at first I was like, the birds are singing, like blah, blah, blah. Like, it just seemed like a kind of common phrase, right? But then I remembered, oh no, wait, there are walking, talking birds in this world, so he probably actually means that the birds are literally flying. And you actually see a bird commuting to work by flying. And I can't remember who it was, but somebody says, like, I'm pretty sure you need a license to fly. And I was like, oh yeah, like that's an interesting bit of world building. Like, of course you would need, in this world of like anthropomorphized animals, like walking on two legs, of course they would need a license to fly. That actually makes a whole ton of sense. And that little bit of world building, I really appreciate. And speaking of world building, I think you know what I'm about to say. Black market. See, now Louis had pointed out the black market at the beginning of the episode, or not the beginning of the episode, but a little bit after we met Juno, and we found out that the herbivores can't go to the big city because of the whole thing that happened at the beginning of the episode, where that one herbivore was found killed and like partially eaten. So because of that, they don't really want the herbivores walking around, especially if they're students. Like, they don't want to run the risk of them walking around at night because something could happen, and I respect that. But we do get to have this moment where Louis is just like, yeah, you you carnivores, you gotta be careful with them, and blah, blah, blah. And Bill's like, I really wish he would stop bringing that up. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe he wouldn't have to bring it up if somebody wasn't drinking rabbit's blood, Bill. Anyway, Louis mentions, don't go near the black market. And I thought the man was kidding. And then we actually see the friggin' thing. And I don't know why Legoshi felt the need to talk to this random stranger. But Legoshi sees this, like, homeless dude, and he's like, hey, man, I have to ask you something. And the guy's like, oh, yeah, sure, and then lifts his hands up, and some of this man's fingers are missing, and the remaining ones have tags on them. And when I say tags, I mean price tags, because this dude sells his fingers to carnivores to eat. I don't think you need me to tell you, but that's kind of messed up. And so for a second, like, Legoshi's like, and freaked out by this. And then Bill happens. And listen, okay, here's where I vent. Because again, these are technically episodic reviews, I guess. But it's mostly, I consider these just weekly check-ins with the show, where I talk about the episode, but I also maybe share some of my thoughts on the characters or the story or whatever about the show. And this is part to do with the episode, but also just part some personal feelings that I just would like to share with you all. And Bill sucks. Bill reminds me of that one dude who would like flash yourself back to high school, right? Or even college. And you're hanging out with your friends at lunch. And then there's that one guy who you kind of just put up with. And he's there, and he's talking about some nonsense that you don't even care about. You don't even want to hear it. But he's like laughing and like nudging you, and you're like, bro, don't touch me. And like that guy, that is Bill. Bill is that guy. Bill is so obnoxious and so irritating, and he dares step to my boy Legoshi. I had a friggin', Bill drives me insane. And before anybody gets upset, I would like to say once again, no, Bill is not a poorly written character. Bill is an expertly written character, because I feel like he's meant to annoy me. Like, I genuinely feel like Bill is supposed to come off that way. He's supposed to come off as overbearing and full of himself and yada yada, and cocky and rude, and you're kind of not supposed to like him that much, especially since he steps to Legoshi. And might I add, I have never quite seen Legoshi look that mad. Like, you see the fur on Legoshi's, like, the fur on Legoshi goes from like the bottom of his neck, and like, I've seen this. Some of you may not know this, but I used to work with dogs, and I would be in a room full of dogs, like maybe like hanging out with 16 dogs at a time. We worked at this dog kennel, and it was me and this other girl, and we were in the room with the dogs. And we're all playing, having a good time. And this one dog, he's a husky. And we watched this one dog start to kind of, you could tell the other dog was getting in his face a little too much. They were playing, but he was kind of getting sick of it. And the other dog's fur went like, I can't, it's like a wave. And you could just tell, like, something's about to go down. Luckily, we stopped it. But like before anything happens, I was just like, hey, come here, boy, everything's fine. So, you know. But at the same time, that moment is scary. Like, if you ever see that happen, like an animal's fur move and they get tense, you're like, that's a bad time. And the way it's animated here is flawless. Like I flashed right back to my dog boarding days. It was nuts. And like, I know Legosi's a wolf, not a dog, but still, like, it was expertly handled. You can see that in any nature documentary about wolves. Like, when wolves get like agitated, the way their fur moves like a wave, you can just tell. And you could tell that they had to have like looked at footage of like wolves and dogs getting upset and like the fur raising. Like, the way Legosi looked was, I don't want to say nightmare fuel, but it was scary as hell. And Bill better back the hell up, because I know Bill scarred like Legosi with like on the back, but man, Bill would have lost that fight in my opinion. Legosi's way, like, in my opinion, Legosi would tank Bill. Bill's a big dude. Legosi's a giant ass wolf. Like, I'm sorry, my money would be on Legosi. And I know some of you are gonna be like upset by that, and I'm sorry. Again, this is just my opinion. I don't mean to upset. I'm just saying, maybe Bill should back the hell off. But enough about Bill, because I want to talk about the other character in that scene, that being Alba. There's a fourth character who I don't quite remember who it is. But anyway, there's another character, Alba. Alba, I didn't really know much about Alba up until this episode. And I gotta say, I hope we see more of Alba, because this character, for a second, he even says, like, Legosi, look at me. We're carnivores in the black market filled with meat. I'm sorry, dude. I'm taking this guy up on this. And Legosi's just like, is this what being adult is? Is this what being an adult is to you people? Because I want no part of it. And he runs off and he runs through the black market. And Alba, we find out later, told Legosi, like, hey man, listen, I was waiting for you. Alba must have been freaked out, by the way, because Legosi had to have been gone for like a while. So Alba must have been like, please be okay, please be okay. But like, they watch him run off, and Alba is left with Bill. And I have to imagine that Bill does go through with it and does eat one of those dude's fingers, and which, first of all, like, gross. But Alba, he doesn't do it. Alba had the opportunity to do it, but he couldn't do it. And to me, I was like, good man. Like, good man, because he says, like, hey, listen, Legosi, like, I'm sorry, man, I was wrong. Like, I was gonna take that dude up on the offer, but I couldn't go through with it because I just thought of you, and I thought of the herbivores that we're friends with, that are in the drama club, that I'm friends with outside of the drama club, and I thought of them, and I couldn't go through with it. It made me sick to my stomach. And like Legosi even says, like, Alba, even now your beak is sharp and polished. And I was like, man, like, Alba could have gone through with it. He could have done it. But he's a good man. He's a good bird man, boy, whatever. He's a good burb. He's a good burb, and I respect him. And I don't know, Alba earned a nod from me. A nod of like, you a good lad. You a good lad in a sea full of good lads. Beastars has some quality boys. And I'm sure Bill will grow on me. Maybe, probably not. But like a sea full of good boys and a good character that drives me crazy. I like Bill being on screen, but because he drives me insane, you know what I mean? Like, you ever have that character where you're like, ooh, I love to hate that character. Like, ooh, that when they're on screen, it's fun because, ooh, easily, I don't know. I can't explain how I feel about Bill, but I can explain how I feel about Alba, and how I feel is that I really appreciated this character. Show up more, Alba. You a good man. Birdman. Harvey Birdman. Attorney at law. We need to move on. Okay, and I put this off long enough. We got to talk about the whole black market therapist thing. That's the coolest damn design I've seen in this entire show. The therapist dude, therapist Panda, I love it. I think he's the friggin' absolute coolest character we have met so far. Not best character, coolest character, there's a difference. And he really does feel he is the definition of cool. He's a panda with like scars on his face and a cigarette in his mouth, and he kicked he actually like clobbered Legosi, knocked him out and dragged him into this like therapy room, even though he put like a muzzle on Legosi, and he's like taking pictures, and he's clearly done this before. He's like the solid snake of pandas. Just look at the guy. Like, holy cow, that dude is bad ass. I love him. I just think he's cool, and he brings up a lot of good points, if I'm totally honest. And I love you, Legosi, but maybe you should have listened to the therapist a little bit. I'm not telling you to back off of heart, because I do believe that what you're feeling is love mixed with a little bit of animalistic instinct, but you can't help that. But I do think you're right, Legosi. I'm just saying that maybe some of the stuff that the Panda is saying, maybe heed some of that advice, because he knows what he's talking about. He's clearly seen this before. But he does say, like, you've never been, like, it did catch him off guard when Legosi says, like, I don't know if it is love, I've never been in love. And that's when the Panda's like, oh, okay, well, maybe just hang on a second, maybe I was wrong. And by the way, I don't know if I'm gonna show this on screen or not. I probably can't, the more I think about it. I probably can't, so you're probably not seeing it in the screenshot, but if you've seen the episode, obviously, if you're watching this, so you know what I'm talking about when I say that. He hands this man a magazine, if you will. I'm not gonna say any more than that, but he hands our boy a magazine of sorts. A zine, if you will, a rabbit zine. I really hope that the Panda's right and that Legosi may just have, like, a thing for smaller partners. What the hell's wrong with me? I have never had to worry about this in any other show. You know what I mean? Like, this has never been a concern in any other show that you want a character to have a kink. But yeah, I think we can all agree. I'm really hoping that Legosi's just maybe, like, really into Haru. I don't know. Maybe dude's just into bunnies. That's fine. I mean, I'm sure there's weirder pairings in this universe they can't be the first, like, wolf and bunny relationship, I assume. This show is weird. Have I mentioned that the show makes me say weird things? Like, take this out of context and you'd have quite a number of confused people. I would love to see more from the therapist. I'd like a name for the therapist. Or maybe I'll just keep calling him the therapist, because that's also kind of a cool name. Because we see, like, that flashback of him where he's, like, in an alley and he's holding his chest because somebody, like, tried to claw at him, and he's like, listen, I've dealt with a lot of carnivores on the black market over here, and I've tried to help out as many as I can, some of which I have, and others that I haven't. And I'm trying. It's not easy, but, I do what I can. And I would love to learn more about the therapist. I would love if Legosi actually, like, continued to go to this dude. Like, I need your help. Like, wouldn't that be kind of fun? Like, to see Legosi be like, hey, I really need you to talk to somebody, and you're the only person who may actually understand what I'm trying to say. And yeah, I don't know. I love the fact that the therapist, right? Like, the one who's trying to help the other carnivores is a panda. Because again, like they say in the episode, pandas are technically carnivores, but can't survive off a diet of bamboo. And so does the therapist. That's what the therapist does, and the therapist is jacked. All I'm saying is that I could easily see the therapist being a key part of the show going forward. I can also see the therapist completely disappearing after this. I can really see it going either way. If we never see the therapist again, I'd be disappointed. But at the same time, I'm happy with what we got, because that is a cool character for all of the time that he is on screen for. And yeah, I don't know. This episode really did impress me. You have some excellent world building, an excellent new character introduction, some solid character building, like further fleshing out these characters. And I don't know, it was just a fun episode, and hit with a lot of emotion as well. But I mean, like, that's sort of a given when it comes to Beastars. It's just a show that I hope people continue to recommend to folks who haven't seen it, because it's just a solid show. But with that said, everybody, I was originally going to give this week's episode an A, but I did end up sitting here for a really long time, longer than I expected, gushing about this episode. I feel like I changed my mind. I got to give it an S. This is an S rank episode. I may regret that tomorrow, but because again, I originally wrote this down as like an A, and I try to be really strict with my rankings, but I'm gonna give it an S. I don't think anybody's really gonna mind. And on that note, everybody, that's gonna wrap up today's video. But before we take off, I want to give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier: Calvin Atkinson, Crowbar of Irony, Dominic, Urza, Ginkotaku, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Mirth Mouser, Omder Garamond, Cell, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Somastan, Steven, Tristan, Verdon, and Westbourne Eastbred. A huge thank you to those of you who support the channel over on Patreon, and if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then be sure to check out that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page, see all the cool rewards you can get over there, as well as access to our Patreon exclusive Discord. Thanks once again for checking out today's video, everybody. If you enjoyed it, then you've probably been on the internet long enough to know what to do already, so I ain't gonna tell you, but I will say that it is appreciated. And if you are feeling stressed out today, then you go have yourself a warm cup of tea, and I will talk to you all again real soon.